Hello, everyone, and welcome to Backlot Banter. This is Backlog Banter's movie-themed subset of our content, and today we're going to be talking about a new documentary that just came out called Feels Good Man. It was very interesting. It's about, the idea of watching a Pepe the Frog documentary is in itself pretty interesting, but really it's the content that they get into and the fact that this goes 7 layers deeper than I thought it was going to. I think it's going to be the main meat of the review today.
Yeah, this movie is like, Pepe the Frog. Most people, I think, know the story. They know the character. They saw him online. They saw the stories on the news about him being listed as a hate symbol by the ADL. But this documentary just goes so much deeper into this, like, into the creator's life. This guy, Matt Fury, in like his quest to first discovering about what happened to his creation and then trying to figure out what to do about it. This is like a existential question about what his art means, and there's so much I think to get into about like the feelings of this movie.
I also think it's a really interesting cross section of internet culture, especially now when a lot of internet culture has become highly politicized, and it just delves into a lot of interesting internet communities that I personally had no idea existed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess we'll try to talk about all of it the best that we can.
Yeah, and so I want to spin off of that of the idea of things that we didn't know existed.
It's a good
You know,
place to
I,
start.
I've been on the internet for a while. I would say most of my cognizant life I've been on the internet, and I've been on YouTube, and I've had Skype, and I've had Discord, and Twitter, and Reddit, and all these websites. 4chan is kind of outside of my realm of knowledge, but I felt like I knew Pepe and I knew all this stuff. But me not being a political person and me not being around 4chan boards or really paying attention to news, to be honest, I didn't know almost any of these things. I didn't know Pepe was on the hate symbol thing. I didn't really know that there was a part of the 2016 election campaign with all the Pepe Trumps, and I didn't know about Alex Jones being sued by Matt Fury. All these things came as surprises to me. So I genuinely learned a lot from this movie because there's so many details and just cultural shifts that have happened in the last few years that this movie touches on that I learned a lot. And on top of that, I learned about meme culture. I learned where Keck came from, which I didn't know about. I
There's
learned where Ree came from. There was a lot of stuff there.
so I find it amazing that a thing I didn't, maybe I knew this, but I didn't realize it. It's just like how fundamental Pepe the Frog is to meme culture on the internet.
Yeah.
Like so much of this stuff that comes out, like normies and and all and keck, like stuff that I think's faded out of fashion. I think it's not very fashionable as a result of the 2016 election and the the connotation with racists, bigots, and stuff. But like I remember that back 3, 4, 5 years ago. Like that was, and to see where it all came from, that was really interesting.
Yeah.
And then the added context, like that was just context for like the real story of the documentary. I think this documentary has a really great story. I think it was like is super interesting. Like, oh, like this, who is this guy who's creating this character? And like, oh, he's like wacky, and it's about like your post college life, which is something I don't think is very represented in popular culture. And then it goes on, and I don't know, 2/3, 3/4 of the way through the movie, it's like it hits this like low point. It's like I felt disgusted about like having seen and I having used Pepe, even though I definitely didn't connotate it with this stuff that was going on at the same time. But like the emotional impact that the film made on me was like really big, especially in like the middle and like second half.
I think it opens in a really interesting place. The way it kind of tracks Matt Fury in particular, but it opens on a very fun note too, because it's very nostalgic. You get to see like the top text, bottom text, like Irma Gerd memes and all that stuff. You're like, oh, I remember those. That's so fun. I remember laughing at those a couple years ago. That was great. And then that's paralleled by Matt Fury being like, "Oh yeah, I love drawing little cartoon characters. This is how Pepe started.
Yeah, he's
He's
like,
just a
I love frogs. Like I've been drawing frogs my whole life.
he's just a cute little guy, and it's a pea meme basically.
Yeah, it's a
He makes a
peony
joke,
meme.
and then yeah, like you said, it transforms, and you get to see as Pepe is twisted into this hate symbol, so is the life is sucked out of Matt Fury. Essentially,
Yeah, like
he just
there's a
becomes
visible transformation in him throughout the film. It's
he
like,
just
And
becomes depressed, and he's sort of he tries to remove himself from what Pepe has become, but at the same time it's still his creation, so he
mhm.
wants to continue to evolve it, and he feels he has a responsibility to try and take control of it, and every time he tries and fails, you just feel really bad for him. It feels bad, man.
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
And there's a couple of things about what you just said that I wanted to touch on. I mean, the introduction that is, I would say the first quarter of it maybe is more about internet culture and neats living in their basement using 4chan and
The movie spent a lot of time like introducing 4chan and the
yeah.
world that it existed in. I thought it was a fairly objective lens. It wasn't super critical. There was a couple interviews where the people were like, yeah, these people are living in fantasy land, like they're not part of the real world. But on the whole, it was just like, this is how it is.
Yeah, and that sort of thing. I mean, Tanner said something when we were looking at some sort of guy's normie or neat basement, and he was being all cringy, and the live or not live, but the found footage internet videos that they clipped in of just old posts that guy had made, and it's cringy. But here's the thing: is that this is now part of human culture in a very
Yeah.
major way, and that's interesting to think about. That has not really been talked about. We think about history, we think about knights in shining armor and Egyptians and the American Revolution and all these things. But we live in the era that our history, when we're older, we're going to be thinking back on internet culture.
This movie and this episode in history, this movie documents it very well, I think, will factor in, if I have kids, I would rate the likelihood that they have to do a research paper or an essay about this pretty high.
Yeah, about
Yeah,
memes
or
in
on
About
general.
exactly on memes in general, for
memes and
sure,
then
absolutely.
specific examples. I mean,
Yeah,
this is such a crazy story.
it
It's
really is.
so, and like the way that it's described and like the like the steps of how they went through and talked about like each individual step of how Pepe like originated. It was like, oh, there it was, the frame, like where
Yeah,
Pepe's got his pants down peeing, like all the way down, he's peeing at the toilet, and the dude's like, oh yeah, I heard you pull your pants on all the way when you go pee, and he's like, "Ah, feels good, man." And like that, it's like this was a long running comic, and like people, it was beloved by like indie comic artists, right? That's the sense I got.
yeah,
Yeah.
And like this is it. This is the one frame that went ahead and made it go viral.
yeah,
Yeah, and like you said, you see the steps. Like there's a pivotal moment, and it seems so stupid and cringy to us, but in the grand sense of what Pepe became, the video of the screaming frog sounding like they say "re,"
Yeah,
now "re" has become its own thing,
yeah.
and yeah, there's just so many other steps to it. It's crazy.
And it's interesting to think as someone who obviously grew up in this time and has used the internet for as long as I can remember, growing up tangential or tangentially to all of this is I was not aware that this was a hate symbol 4chan thing about being edgy and about counterculture, but Pepe was just memes. I mean, I almost every Discord server I'm in, and even the Discord server we have Pepe faces because Pepe is just such a blank slate for reaction images for representing the internet in general. And also just like Timo, you and me in high school. I mean, we read all the time. You would read Dota
yeah, I
and
would.
Rocket League and in using Keck, like those things just were part of culture and part of things that we said. Like even saying normie, I didn't use that a lot, but it was
I
definitely
didn't,
something that
yeah,
was like,
because that felt cringe in the moment. I don't really feel like I ever used Keck because I understood like the subtext behind it of the white ethno state that the
mm,
Kekistan represented. Um, Even as a relatively unawakened political individual, but it's like so fundamental. It's in everything. Later in the movie they are at the like that internet research company, and they're like, yeah, it's like 160 memes, 160 million memes posted every year, and like, you know what, like Pepe's a part of a large majority of them.
yeah,
Yeah. I think you brought up how we, even if we were unassuming, we still used and, propagated the terms "re" and the Pepe image. But I think the documentary also kind of gets into that conversation towards the end when Matt Fury goes to the Anti-Defamation League and asks to get it removed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a really interesting argument because I can definitely see both sides of
Yeah.
Matt Fury wants it removed because having it on that list is giving it to the people who are using it as a hate symbol. That is relinquishing it to them. That's confirming that it is a hate symbol. Whereas if you were to take it off, then it just becomes part of culture. It becomes diluted and everyone's using it. And yes, some people are using it as a hate symbol, but other people are just using it to have fun. And it becomes diluted in that way, and that can either be dangerous or it can take away the power from these hateful people. And I wish the documentary had gotten more into that, but it was towards the end.
Yeah.
And it had to try to kind of stay snappy, so I guess it works out in the end. But yeah,
And they had that really powerful segment about the Hong Kong protests and about how
yes,
the peaceful, like ostensibly the good guys of the situation adopted the Pepe meme and the Pepe image. I think probably unaware of its like legacy in the United States for a good purpose politically too, not just like, oh, he's like peace, it's peace frog, the stuff that Matt Fury tried to do before this, but like it's a political image that is meant for like freedom and democracy and I ideas that are pretty well accepted as like, well, at least in America, as being the things to strive for. And so it's like I thought that was a really excellent way to end the film on
Yeah.
this note of like yeah, like these terrible things happen to it, and like yeah, it's used by these terrible people to say terrible things, but at the same time, here it is doing good in a
Yeah.
way that none of us would have thought.
yeah,
And it's another layer to this movie that we've only sort of touched on is just the idea of the impact of art and culture in general, and one person's creation being just spread throughout culture. Like
Yeah.
one person came up with everything that we think of. They talked at the beginning. It's like where everyone culture is copying other people, and whether
Mhm.
that's hairstyles or pants or chairs, so one person thought of something at the beginning, and there was an origin for that. And no matter depending on how long it's been around, it's become watered down and just a part of culture. And you never think of the fact that someone invented the microphone or invented the word keck or whatever. Like
Yeah.
there's things like that, and the fact that it was sort of, as I was saying, another layer to this movie of Matt's life and the fact that he's just an artist and he
Yeah.
wanted to create a thing. You know, it became popular. He's like, okay, let's sell some merch for it. I can make some money off my creation, even if I don't have it explicitly copyrighted or anything. And they made those shirts
Yeah,
and the merch.
they made 3,000
45
shirts.
Yeah, $45,000 worth of shirts or in merch in general.
Yeah.
That they couldn't sell because Pepe had become part of the
Yeah, they had to
symbol,
destroy
whatever. But
They had to,
also
like,
on top of
recant.
that, with the hate symbol thing that you were talking about earlier, Tanner, is that it makes sense why they put Pepe on the hate symbol thing.
Yeah,
Because
like
for a
the
while that was a powerful symbol that people were using for negative reasons. And that's what that board exists for. So of
Mhm.
course they would add it to there. But on the other hand, it can be used for other things. So it shouldn't be. It's a very weird balance, and it's interesting to see both sides.
I thought when the film was talking about how it like got to that, it didn't just like skip to, okay, it's like being used for this. It like went through the individual steps and like the culture of the 4chan and how like the idea of the 4chan memes being adopted by the normies on like
Yeah.
Instagram and stuff, and like the fight back against it, and like the film didn't point it out too heavily, but it mentioned it a couple times, like the people who like weren't bullied in middle school and high school, and like the people who have sex, and the people who are women, like is a pushback against these like very like normal things, just
Mhm.
from the people that the in this 4chan online basement dwelling space. I laugh because I currently live in the basement, but I like to think I'm a bit different. Just like this whole idea of not just that it became this, but like what kind of culture created the space to twist the Pepe image into something so vile hatred.
Yeah, that's a well, yeah, the culture behind it and the people who used it are a really interesting point because I wanted to bring up a documentary that neither of you have seen, I'm pretty sure, but that Face with No GF, which also came out this year,
These are both
and
supposed
is
to be South by movies. I was gonna go. I had them on my schedule. I'd written down that I wanted to go see both of these in their like premiere, but alas,
yeah,
eventually get around to watching them.
and that Face with No GF has sort of been sort of universally panned, especially by audiences. I'm not so sure about critics, but by general audiences who have a knowledge of that kind of internet culture, that Face with No GF has been kind of panned universally because it romanticizes these people a little bit more than
Mm-hmm.
Feels Good Man does, and also I think just generally from a production standpoint, it's less creative. But I think this was a very solid idea to focus in on a very well-known internet symbol and sort of expand it out into how it impacts internet culture, then rather than trying to take a scatter shot of the people who are kind of the problem with the internet culture, which is what that Face With No GF tried to do.
Yeah, and
Huh.
one thing you touched on there is that this movie, a documentary movie filmmaking thing, was actually very creatively done. It
I think so.
was a
Totally.
combination of a lot of things. And look, we've been talking about the content of the film in terms of its themes and the what it talked about in terms of culture, but it's just fun to watch because not only are there interviews with people, it's a documentary, of course, but uh they splice in recordings from news. They splice in recordings from internet things like YouTube videos and obviously in screenshots of 4chan boards and Instagram, and then using memes as a format throughout the video. And on top of that, unique animation style that
Yeah, they
I
made
think maybe Matt Fury did he do it? I don't know.
no.
I would
In the credits, it said something about like having animators, but like totally that animation as like a bridge and a through line throughout the whole movie. Like I thought it totally worked for me just to like connect everything together, as well as like the last segment of the movie is in animated form about like kind of the resurrection of Pepe as Matt Fury's character.
Yeah.
Was just like I thought it was really beautiful. I was like, oh, I almost kind of want to cry.
I mean, look, I didn't even know that there were other characters. I didn't know about Boys Club. I'd never seen the other characters from that comic. So seeing them in an animated form definitely gave them a lot more personality, and it
Mm-hmm.
connected everything back to the fact that this was initially just a post college life, chilling with your bros comic,
Yeah,
and that's what those characters were through the animation. It really gave it a lot of personality. It's very cool.
yeah. I mean, talking about the comic as like right at the beginning of the movie gave it so much context and just I don't know. I thought back on that moment throughout the movie, especially during those animated segments of like Pepe was not like the only character, and like he became like the sad frog character archetype on the internet, but like in the comic I don't think he was always presented that way. I
Yeah.
remember there was Matt Fury had a line about saying he was like, oh, he's just kind of like the younger brother of the friend group,
Hmm.
and it's like, and somehow he was the one to get adopted by everyone.
Yeah. Tanner, you got anything to say?
um, if nothing else, watch this to see Richard Spencer get punched in the head. That's pretty cool.
That was a pretty good moment.
Yeah. I
I
mean, oh, you can go.
oh I totally forgot.
Okay.
It
Well,
left
I
my
mean,
brain.
thinking about this movie in terms of should you watch it after listening to us babble about it, I would say so because there are a lot of things that we didn't touch on. I don't
Yes.
know how much longer we're going to go on this, but this movie is not only just a story of Pepe, but it's the perspectives of so many different people on the concept of Pepe and the cultural
Yeah.
significance. They had a guy who was dealing in Pepe cryptocurrency, which is a thing that I didn't even know existed, but it was an
He's a
interesting side.
millionaire. He was a
Yeah.
millionaire having dealt
He
with it.
had a
Oh, we're on a shutdown right now. Tanner,
Pokemon theme song parody.
we just roamed a little bit, and we're gonna Jerome in a second. Hold on.
Well, I mean,
Yep.
um, they had a
Yeah.
member
Okay,
of
we're
the
back. We're back for good.
they remember the Trump campaign from 2016, like talking about their use and co-option of it. And the movie didn't put a spin on it, but I mean, I definitely felt anger towards that guy.
Oh yeah.
Well,
I
yeah, but I
mean,
mean,
you also had the sections with a large section of the film with Alex Jones, and it delved into the lawsuit that ensued. Infowars trying to use Pepe the Frog.
Yeah, after Matt's character arc, like he starts out and he's just this like free flying guy, and then he makes this comic and it gets big on the internet, and he's like naive about it. I think the film doesn't like point out that he's naive, but it's pretty obvious. He's just like unaware. And then like as it goes on, he tries combating it and it doesn't work, and then he like eventually, you know, it comes to him working with lawyers to like try to wrest his baby almost like back.
yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing I felt that the film itself did really well was that it was such an impersonal story, really, right? It's about like this kind of nebulous idea that like an image being shared on the internet and being like changed and manipulated to cause trouble, and yet it's really, the film is about this guy and like his journey of coming to terms and dealing with his art being used for evil.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, it does have something for almost everyone. If you have some semblance of internet knowledge, you're going to be able to attach to at least part of this. And the
Mm-hmm.
more you're aware of internet culture, the more you're going to be able to attach to this. Because like we said, there's the cryptocurrency aspect, there's the purely political aspect of it. There's a guy who talks about how memes are like modern day magical
The occultist dude, like
the occultist dude who basically said that they're manifestations, and memes are kind of magic in a sense.
and they have like he was talking about how they have power in the magical sense, but like this meme had power in the real physical
Yes.
world sense.
Yes.
And it's like, yeah, you're totally right. It has, even if you don't know much, I think you learn a lot. I think your eyes can be completely pulled open and shown this world that maybe you've heard about and saw some news, but you don't fully understand.
Yeah. And I think that's the real strength of this movie, is being able to tie together so many aspects of culture and perspective into one central thing. So for you guys who are political and know internet stuff, but for me who I'm not political but I know internet stuff, are not even as much internet stuff as some people, but they give you an entrance point for all of these things. And I could learn about the politics just by watching this, or someone who doesn't know about the internet can learn about the internet aspect while watching this, and you get to learn about a lot of different perspectives on it. I think that's very interesting too.
Yeah, and I'll admit I kind of thought I knew the story, but like no, there's so much more depth, so much more like interesting stuff that went on, that I mean, I think any person, no matter what, besides from the documentarians themselves, can go ahead and learn something from this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts.
I think this might be, I think we're getting into an era of internet documentaries, that is documentaries centered around internet phenomena. And this might be the best one so far that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
And if we're in the prime age of it, this might be the best one, or this could be a stepping stone for better things to come.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's very interesting to think about.
Because who knows what happens next. I mean, we can't predict the future. It's a very weird moment we're living in, and the internet is always a big part of it. So having to figure out how do you tell a story about something so like not real as the internet is a challenge. I think this film did it really well. So my closing thought is that the way Pepe was treated feels bad, man. But this movie feels amazing, man.
6 thumbs up. Timo, give us a thumbs up. Let's get 6 in the frames. There we go.
6 thumbs up in the frame.
That's a feels good, man. There we go.
Good, man.
It really does feel good, man. And I hope you guys feel. I hope you men feel good too about talking about this movie, and you viewers. I hope you viewers feel good.
Yes.
And if that goodness transfers to your finger, move down to the subscribe button, subscribe, like the video. You know, we gotta plug those things. We're a small channel. We gotta grow.
Yep,
We gotta
I got to do it with
shameless
I
my
agree.
self-promotion. That's the name of the game. But thank you very much for watching, everyone. And we will do more movie stuff soon. This is just the beginning of Backlot Banter.
See you next
I
time
agree.
on the back lot.
Your homework between now and when they call tomorrow to include Avengers and Zelda.
Yeah.
And I want you to figure out how we can play James Bond Bloodstone, okay?
I don't believe that that's actually something you. What the fuck is that? Are you serious?
Yes.
What?
Hmm.
I like to leave you speechless.
Okay, just leave. Hang up on him.
Fuck you. Yeah, we're hanging up. Bye.
I,